right, hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now, this one is a shootout, so if you want to actually see the review of either one of these mics, actually, that should be in the description. But recently, I reviewed this, which is the TZ Audio X2, Stellar X2, I believe is the full name of it, but we're just going to be calling it the X2. Link to it will be in the description, and this is, of course, the pretty much the guy I pit against every other microphone, the Audio-Technica 2020, or the AT2020, which is what we'll be calling it, just to save time. Now, right now, you're actually listening to both of these microphones. Both of these microphones are on, and so you're listening to both of them. And actually, I'm going to turn. There you go. I had a slight EQ on this one because it was a little too. It's a little too bassy for me. However, it's not as sharp and as brittle as the Audio-Technica 2020. So I did a little bit of EQing on this one. But for right now, there's no gain. There's no EQ on either one of them. The levels are set differently. I had to do some tests to make sure that they are about the same because the X2 actually comes in a whole lot hotter. What that means is you can actually turn the gain down a whole lot more. Almost 25% less on the gain on the X2 than the Audio-Technica 2020, which is really, really good. So the benefit of that is if you have a device that like my mixer that doesn't have quite, I mean, my mixer has really good preamps, but if you have one that doesn't have the best preamps and you're getting a lot of digital noise, a lot of preamp hiss, or anything like that, turning the gain down might actually help. So if you have a microphone that comes in a lot hotter, it needs less power, so you can turn it down, you're going to get less of that preamp noise if you have that problem. My mixer doesn't really seem to have that issue. It has pretty clean preamps, so it's totally fine. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to be switching between them, and one thing I actually love about this mixer, and no, this isn't a review about the mixer, but is that there's actually switches on here that I don't have to unplug or turn anything off. I just turn some switches off. Do that right there. And now, all you're listening is the X2. So all I got to do is just flip those switches. It's not recording, and I can't hear it. However, I can hit the button to record and not hear, and then I can also hit the button to hear and not record. So it's got a lot of options. Anyway, so right now we're listening to the X2, the Stellar X2. Again, no compression, no EQ. This is exactly how the microphone comes in. Gain is set way down on it. I think it's set to about 10 o'clock on the mixer, and the Audio-Technica 2020 is set to almost 1 o'clock. So there's a bit of a difference. And no windscreens for either one of them because we're just going to, we're just going to deal with it. I'm going to just try not to be very careful with my plosives. I will say, however, this one is definitely a whole lot more sensitive. Couple reasons. Number one, the capsule is almost twice the size of the Audio-Technica 2020. I didn't think it would be that much of a difference because I don't know why I hadn't messed with this microphone in a long time. And when I was putting them side by side and I was able to look through them, this one's like $50 and this one's more like a quarter in size comparison. It's not exact, but in size comparison, if you can think of $50 and a quarter, that's basically the difference of what we're working with, which makes a lot of sense because the X2 capsule is, according to TZ Audio Productions, is modeled after the Neumann U87, which, like I've said before, is quite a ballsy statement, quite a ballsy claim. But it is a pretty sizable capsule. So, and also the cage is a whole lot smaller, as you can see. This is a much bigger cage. I'm doing that just so you can see it. So you can see my white skin. There you go. Much bigger cage, much smaller cage. And the capsule almost takes up every inch of the cage in here. As opposed to the Audio-Technica 2020, there's a lot of room. And I think it has twice as much cage mesh material. I think it's got a bigger one and then has like a thinner material. I think this one, yeah, this one does have the same thing, but the mesh is a whole lot closer. So what that means is if I was to blow air into the Audio-Technica 2020, because of the gap between the capsule and the cage, the air is going to kind of split off and dissipate because of the shorter distance between the cage and the capsule. It's probably going to go right down the barrel of the capsule a lot easier. It's just a little bit more sensitive, which, I mean, you should always use a pop filter anyway. So mic sensitivity as far as plosives and air going into them, that's not a big deal. Okay, just the more sensitive, just to make sure it's got a pop filter. That's it. That's all it is. Let me just say that the X2, I believe this one that I have is $200, I believe, which is twice as much as the Audio-Technica 2020, which is pretty much consistently, no matter how many years go by, $100. And I think this might be one of their actually it could be their most purchased microphone because of its price point. Now we're going to switch over to the Audio-Technica 2020 real quick. Oh, there we go. Now we're on the Audio-Technica 2020. See, there we go. The Audio-Technica 2020, the AT2020, is one of my favorite microphones because it's exactly what you need it to be. It's exactly the price you need it to be. It's exactly the sound quality for the price. It's exactly the the sturdiness that it needs to be. And I own two of these. One of them I got used, one of them I got brand new, and I can't tell the difference between the two of them. They sound the same. They sound exactly the same no matter how many years I've owned them. I've made money off the Audio-Technica the AT2020. I need to just stop trying to do the whole thing. I've made money off the 2020. And, if something happened and I had to, like, for some reason, somebody came in and they stole all my other microphones and they only left me this, I'd be fine. I mean, if they left everything else and they just took the microphone, then I'd be fine. But if I had this microphone, I'd be fine. Of course, I would want to make sure that I was saving back up and, or what have you, if my insurance didn't cover it, making sure that I got back to where I was because my clients have a level of quality expectation. Not that I couldn't EQ, not that I couldn't clean up, and not that I couldn't work with this microphone. There's just an expectation of the quality and standard that I have that I would like to just maintain. But I wouldn't stop working. I wouldn't stop doing voiceover, and I wouldn't stop getting paid. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's a really reliable microphone, and it shows up pretty much on everyone's list when anyone does a beginner's or budget-friendly voiceover mic list. The 2020 is going to be on that list. It's pretty much a standard. If I was to do a show or a podcast or what have you where I need a lot of microphones for a lot of people, I would definitely be getting a bunch of 2020s if there wasn't like a company that was going to be donating to me. Yeah, y'all listening? I would want. But if it was my budget, my money, I'd probably be getting a whole bunch more of the 2020s. Just because I know that they'll last, they'll sound decent, they'll sound fine for a very, very long time. Now, let's go back. It's so cool that I can do that. One thing that I definitely love about the X2 is, number one, I mean, you guys should watch my full review. I gushed over it a lot. This is probably one of the best sounding large diaphragm mics that I think I've ever used or ever owned. I'm going to say that because I have actually used and reviewed other people's microphones, and I've been in other people's studios, and I've gotten the privilege of using different quality mics. But as far as like owning, probably the best. It's not cheap. It's not it's not what I would say as if you're someone just starting out into voiceover, just getting into voiceover, and you don't have a lot of disposable income, I might not suggest this microphone. Because if you're just starting out, you don't need the best sounding microphone anyway. I'd probably suggest this. Actually, there's some other microphones that I'd suggest. It's depending on your budget. But if you could afford something twice as much as the 2020, I would definitely recommend the X2. Just of the mics that I personally have used and can recommend that are affordable. 200 is not bad. 200 is not bad at all. You just want to make sure that you have an interface that's very clean. Because if you get an interface that's below 60, if it's, basically your interface needs to be at least 100 to get good quality preamps. There are some out there that are really clean that's below 100, but I can't think of too many right now, so I don't want to just say, yeah, sure, 50, totally fine. But make sure that the interface that you have is clean. Otherwise, there's no point in getting an X2. You might as well just go with the 2020 and save up some money to get a better interface. But, like I said, if money isn't really that much of an option and you wanted a small... Because this is a pretty small microphone. It's not big. I do need to check these later on because I forgot to hold them in my hands or weigh them. I don't remember because I just plopped them in the thing and I forgot about it. But this was a very heavy feeling microphone. And the 2020 is no lightweight either. It's also a pretty chunky beast. But this is really small. This is significantly, this is a decent size. And if you're just using the foam wind cover, like I was before, this would be enough. You could have a really simple booth, just the wind cover. Make sure you're speaking at a 45 and not just shooting right down the barrel. And, clean preamp. It's good. And due to the fact that so far, it does sound very comparable to a lot of other Neumann microphones, especially ones that have very similar or the same capsule form factor or same capsule. I would say that you could do a lot of broadcast, professional voiceover, etc. and so forth with no quality issue outside of the noise and the space that you're in. Noise outside because large diaphragms are very sensitive, and this one is very sensitive because of its size and the fact that it's a lot hotter. But, yeah, there's not really much to say. I don't really have too many negatives to say about either one of these microphones. Really, it just comes down to price point and what you're looking to accomplish. I have had and used other microphones that were trying to invoke the Neumann U87 sound. They were either not as clean or it was not the Neumann U87 sound. Not by a long shot. I don't have those microphones anymore. I kind of wish I did. There's one of them that, it was like one of my first microphones. I really want that back just so I could showcase what I started with. I may do that at some point in time. Just show you guys the mic that I started with. I can get my hands on it. It was a long time discontinued. I think it's an MXL. I think the two first mics that I had were MXLs. I think. But anyway, yeah, I don't have a lot of negativity to say. I like both of these companies. I'm new to TZ. I mean, they just emailed me, said, "Hey, do you want to review our microphones?" I was like, "Yeah. What's your address?" And they sent it to me. There was no hassle. There was no, you gotta go on Amazon. You gotta, pay us. You gotta, and then you give us the 5-star review, and you gotta all this kind of stuff. Jump through hoops, and then you say our names backwards, and you draw a circle in chalk and summon forth a demon. Like, there was none of that. They just sent it to me, and it was great out of the box. Everything that I tested it on, all the stuff. I tried doing a little bit of singing. I didn't record it. Tried doing a little bit of singing, and it had a really smooth sound. I mean, you're listening to it. It's got a really smooth sound. I would definitely do some like old-timey like crooner kind of sounding singing, or I don't know, some bigger Broadway sounds, because it's got that really nice, rich bassiness to it that's really complimentary. That's what I'm going to be using this microphone for sure, is doing any kind of musical, any kind of singing, that kind of stuff. Obviously, voiceover is still going to be sticking with my Sennheiser because of the directionalness and the fact that I want to eliminate all outside noise, but overall, definitely going to be using this for singing, which I was with the Audio-Technica 2020, but I always had to kind of cut a good chunk of the sibilance off, which we're going to go back to right now. Boop. Which I always have to cut off a good bit of the sibilance. I'm not doing that right now. I just want to double check. I'm not doing that right now. And it's not easy to hear, but there is this kind of to the sound. There's a little bit of that. And if I do character work, which is my thing, and I do a character that's more nasally, more high-pitched, more high energy, any yelling, that comes in a whole lot more. Again, not to a point that I can't EQ, but it is noticeable. It is something worth noting. It is something that I have to be aware of. And you would too. However, it is a microphone that I recommend to a lot of people who have a bassier voice, who have a deeper sounding voice. If you have a deeper sounding voice, just something with a lot more resonance, much more baritone, going with an AT2020 will help cut through that bassiness so that we can still hear your clarity. If you have a more sibilant voice, but you want to complement your lower end, I would go with the X2. Other than that, it comes down to budget, and that's it. That's really it. 200, 100. I think also TZ does have where you can buy refurbished, ones that they've had returned and fixed, and I think they're $150, I think. So, and it's from them. It's actually from them, so it's not like you're going to a third party to get it fixed or anything like that. So you should expect the same kind of care given into it from, as if it was brand new. I don't know if it would sound exactly the same. I don't know. I mean, there's no real way of telling, but I can say from my previous review of the X2, my previous review video where they had the checklist, where it's like someone actually went through and checked everything. They ran it through its paces. I imagine they would do the same thing with the refurbished. Why not? So you can get one of these for less, for something that's closer to the Audio-Technica 2020. So there you go. Slightly different sound, definitely smoother, definitely brighter. Not really a lot of noise. Which, before I end, let's do a noise test real quick. We are on the we're on the Audio-Technica 2020 right now. So I'm going to do some silence. And now we're going to be going to the X2. And there you go. I didn't hear anything. I was going to alter the gain on here, but I have them so finically done, so they're similar right now, that I don't know if I'd be able to turn them back. I don't know if I'd be able to remember. So just turn up the volume on your end, or I'll probably do one where I boost them in post. I'll probably do that. Whatever. So anyway, that's going to be it. This little shootout, not really. I'm not telling you which one to go with. I know at the end of every single one of these shootouts, people go, yeah, but which one should I get? I don't care. I'm just showing you what they sound like. I'm giving you my opinions. Whichever one sounds the best for you, that's the one for you. What do you want from me? So yeah, that's going to be it. Check out the link to either one of these microphones down in the description. If you guys liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Totally fine. Subscribe if you're new, bell for notifications, and leave down in the comment section below. Like to see me cover any other topics or do any other shootouts or do any other reviews. Totally fine. Also, my email is down in the description. So if you need any personal help or any kind of coaching, that's what that is. That's where it is, and that's what it's for. And yeah, it's going to be it. And until next time, peace.